military plans as well as classified information, he needs to resign immediately. He needs to resign immediately, and a full investigation needs to be undertaken with regard to whether other similar signal chats are occurring.
It began with a simple mistake, an invitation. But what followed became one of the most explosive leaks of the current Trump administration. Inside a private signal chat labeled Houthi PC Small Group, top officials, including Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and Vice President J.D. Vance, were openly coordinating a covert strike on Yemen's Houthis. The shock. They unknowingly added Jeffrey Goldberg, editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, to the chat. From inside this virtual war room, Goldberg witnessed, in real time, generals and cabinet members discussing when and where bombs would fall, arguing over risks to oil markets, and even disagreeing on whether the strike should happen at all. This was not a hack. It wasn't whistleblowing. It was the US government accidentally live streaming its war planning to a journalist. In March 2025, reports surfaced that top officials in the Trump administration inadvertently disclosed military plans via an encrypted signal chat that included a journalist. This chat, named Houthi PC Small Group, detailed imminent attacks against Yemen's Houthi rebels. The revelation sparked significant criticism and calls for a congressional investigation. On March 26th, additional information came to light. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth reportedly texted the planned time for a targeted killing of a Houthi militant leader in Yemen 2 hours before the operation. The use of a commercial messaging app for such sensitive information led to widespread outrage and demands for accountability. Countering the accusation, Defense Secretary defended himself by saying,
"More information about war plans against the Houthis in Yemen was shared with a journalist in The Atlantic, and were those details classified?"
You're talking about a deceitful and highly discredited so-called journalist who's made a profession of peddling hoaxes time and time again, to include the hoaxes of Russia, or the fine people on both sides hoax, or suckers and losers hoax. So this is the guy that peddles in garbage. This is what he does. I would love to comment on the Houthi campaign because of the skill and courage of our troops. I've monitored it very closely from the beginning. And you see, we've been managing 4 years of deferred maintenance under the Trump administration. Our troops, our sailors were getting shot at as targets. Our ships couldn't sail through. And when they did shoot back, it was purely defensively or at shacks in Yemen. President Trump said, no more. We will reestablish deterrence. We will open freedom of navigation, and we will ultimately decimate the Houthis, which is exactly what we're doing as we speak from the beginning, overwhelmingly.
Why were those details shared on Signal, and how did you learn that a journalist was privy to the targets, the types of weapons used?
I've heard I was characterized. Nobody was texting war plans, and that's all I have to say about that. Thank you.
The Atlantic published an explosive article revealing the content of the leaked signal messages from the Houthi PC Small Group. Journalist Jeffrey Goldberg, who was mistakenly added to the chat, reported that Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth disclosed precise operational timelines for imminent US strikes on Houthi targets in Yemen. The leak showed Hegseth detailing exact launch times for F-18 fighter jets, drone strikes, and Tomahawk missiles. The Atlantic also exposed private disagreements inside the group, with Vice President J.D. Vance warning that the strikes could escalate tensions and disrupt global oil markets. The Atlantic further confirmed that officials used casual, unsecured signal messages to plan military actions, including Vance's direct quote, "I think we are making a mistake." The publication caused immediate uproar in Washington and intensified calls for an investigation. When asked about the leak, President Donald Trump seemed to downplay the incident.
It could be that Signal's not very good, it's a company, and maybe it's not very good. I think we'd rather know about it now. Well, yeah, Mike Waltz, I guess he claimed responsibility, I would imagine. It had nothing to do with anyone else. It was Mike, I guess. I don't know. I was told it was Mike. But again, the attacks were unbelievably successful. And That's ultimately what you should be talking about, I think. No, Mike did. He took responsibility for it. Hegseth is doing a great job. He had nothing to do with this. Hegseth. How do you bring Hegseth into it? He had nothing to do. Look, it's all a witch hunt. Here we are talking about some of the greatest business deals ever made. The greatest companies in the world are moving into the United States, and you want to ask about whether or not Signal works. I don't know that Signal works. I think Signal could be defective, to be honest with you. And I think that's what we have to, because you use Signal and we use Signal and everybody uses Signal, but it could be a defective platform, and we're going to have to find that out.
The same day, U.S. House Democrats moved to compel the Trump administration to release records concerning the Signal chat leak. A resolution of inquiry was filed demanding documents and communication records related to the discussions that included senior officials and a journalist. This resolution must be addressed by the House Foreign Affairs Committee within 14 days, or Democrats can force a House vote.
Over Signal, in fact, it's so normal that the last administration left it here for us. That's your testimony today.
That's your testimony.
No, that's
Senator.
not my testimony. That's what you said.
I didn't say any of those things that you just related, Senator.
I heard you say it. We'll let the American people decide.
Information contained in any of these discussions that were reported in the Atlantic Monthly. Is that correct?
No, I'm not aware of that
This
today.
sloppiness, this incompetence, this disrespect for our intelligence agencies and the personnel who work for them is entirely unacceptable. It's an embarrassment.
Senator,
You need to do better. You need to do better.
we certainly are trying to protect. Director Radcliffe, this was a huge mistake, correct? No. A national political...
Hold on.
No, you
Let me
hold
answer.
on. No,
The
Director
answer- the
Radcliffe,
reason
I
I
asked
say
you a yes
no-
or no question, and now you hold on. A national political reporter
You can
was made
characterize it how
privy,
you want.
was made privy
The White
to
House has
sensitive
made
information
clear
about
that there
imminent
was an
military
inadvertent
operations against a
mistake,
foreign terrorist
an inadvertent
organization.
mistake of adding a reporter.
And that wasn't a huge
to a
mistake.
deal.
That wasn't a huge mistake.
Well, I think they characterize
This is
it
an
as a
embarrassment.
mistake.
This is utterly unprofessional. There's been no apology. There has been no recognition of the gravity of this error. And by the way, we will get the full transcript of this chain, and your testimony will be measured carefully against its content. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
But what you're saying doesn't make sense on the face of it.
Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard acknowledged that discussing sensitive military plans on a Signal group chat which included a journalist was a mistake. Despite assertions that the information was not classified, Democrats have demanded an investigation and called for Defense Secretary Hegseth's resignation. The National Security Council has initiated an inquiry into the incident.
The President and National Security Advisor Waltz held a press conference yesterday with a clear message. It was a mistake that a reporter was inadvertently added to a Signal chat with high-level national security principals having a policy discussion about imminent strikes against the Houthis and the effects of the strike. National Security Advisor has taken full responsibility for this, and the National Security Council is conducting an in-depth review along with technical experts working to determine how this reporter was inadvertently added to this chat. The conversation was candid and sensitive, but as the President and National Security Advisor stated, no classified information was shared. There were no sources, methods, locations, or war plans that were shared. This was a standard update to the National Security Cabinet that was provided alongside updates that were given to foreign partners in the region. The Signal Message app comes pre-installed on government devices. In December of 2024, CISA stated, quote, "We strongly urge highly targeted individuals."
National Security Advisor Mike Waltz stepped up and accepted his mistake and updated about the actions taken in this regard.
Well, yeah, Mike Waltz, I guess he claimed responsibility, I would imagine. Had nothing to do with anyone else. It was Mike, I guess. I don't know. I was told it was Mike. But again, the attacks were unbelievably successful. And that's ultimately what you should be talking about, I think. Mike did, he took responsibility for it.
The Yemen conflict continues to evolve, with recent events highlighting the complexities and challenges faced by those involved. The Signal app leak scandal underscores the critical importance of safeguarding sensitive information in times of war.